The sinister doll Sally watched the girl from the shadows with a terrifying smile on her face. Hello friends, Penny loved to collect unusual toys very much. The girl's parents, Rose and Darren, thought for a long time about what toy to give their daughter. Rose looked at various ads on the internet for a long time. Suddenly, she noticed an ad for a huge doll that was very cheap. Rose and Darren went to an old man who was selling the big toy. He said the doll's name was Sally, and she requires a lot of attention. The girl's parents seemed to be very glad to get rid of the doll. The next morning, Rose and Darren gave the doll to their daughter. Penny was very happy with her new toy and played with Sally all day. When she went to bed, the girl left the doll near her bed. That night, the girl had a nightmare. Then she heard a loud noise and went to check where it was coming from. A vase was lying on the floor, and Sally was sitting next to it. Penny got scared and quickly ran back to her room. In the morning, Penny told her parents everything, but they said she had just dreamed it. The girl no longer wanted to play with the doll. She spent all her free time with her old toys. In the evening, the girl went into the bathroom and saw the inscription on the wall, "Play with me." Running out of the bathroom, she saw the doll Sally with a scary smile on her porcelain face. Penny cried and loudly called her parents. Rose and Darren came down and calmed the girl down. There was no more inscription in the bathroom. That same evening, at the request of their daughter, Darren threw the doll away. But Penny continued to have nightmares, and when she woke up, the stained doll was standing in front of her face. Then she screamed with all her might. Sally did not move, only her face looked very angry. Hearing their daughter's cries, the parents rushed in and were also frightened by the sinister toy demon. In the morning, overcoming their fear, Rose and Darren went to the place where they had bought the doll named Sally. But after walking around the street several times, they did not find the house where the deal had taken place. But suddenly they noticed that the same old man was sitting on a bench. Rose and Darren yelled at him because they were afraid and did not understand what was happening. The man looked at them with frightened eyes and replied that he did not know who they were and did not understand what they were talking about. Rose and Darren got even angrier, but the man started crying, and they realized that he really did not understand anything. They headed to the deepest lake in the city and threw the doll into it, hoping it would never come back. Rose and Darren hoped that by getting rid of the sinister doll Sally, they could restore peace to their family. But when they returned home, they were alarmed to find that Penny was nowhere to be seen. They searched the entire house, but the girl had vanished without a trace. Suddenly, Rose noticed that the window in Penny's room was open. The parents' hearts sank with worry. What if their daughter had gone out? They rushed outside and began calling for Penny, but there was no response. The search continued through the night, but by morning, the girl was still nowhere to be found. Rose and Darren were exhausted and terrified. Where could their daughter have disappeared to? Suddenly, they heard a strange sound coming from the attic. Cautiously climbing up, they were met with a horrifying sight. Next to the boxes stood the doll Sally, and in the corner beside her was their daughter Penny. The parents rushed towards her, but Sally suddenly blocked their path. The doll's chilling laughter rang out, and she whispered, "Now you will stay with me forever as well." Suddenly, the lights in the house went out, plunging everything into utter darkness. Penny's heart-wrenching scream was heard, and then silence. The next morning, when the neighbors knocked on the door of Rose and Darren's house, there was no answer. Breaking in, they found the house completely empty. Not only Penny, Rose, and Darren, but the doll Sally herself had vanished, as if they had all simply dissolved into thin air. The police were baffled, as there was not a single clue to indicate what had happened. The townspeople fearfully speculated about the fate of the family and the demonic doll. No one dared to even approach that cursed house. A lot of time has passed. The house with the missing people has become legendary, and people still fear it. But one family, who lived in the village and all its members had long dreamed of moving to the city. The head of the family, named Donald, found an ad in the newspaper for the sale of the house at a very low price, and told his wife Susie and son Harry. Together they read the history of this house and were horrified. But the price was very small, and they finally decided to move out of the village. The next morning, they were standing on the threshold of their new home and were very excited. While the little son was delighted with his new room, the parents inspected the attic, where they heard the cries of the previous owners. Donald and Susie did not find anything surprising, except for a pile of boxes and a hairpin with a star. After inspecting their new possessions, the whole family diligently cleaned the house. Donald and Susie cleaned the kitchen and their bedroom. Harry cleaned his own bedroom. Suddenly he heard a strange laugh. He went to the source of the sound and came to the bathroom. The shower was running, and on the wall was a message, "Welcome. Will you be my friend?" The boy got scared and ran to his room. He couldn't sleep all night, and in the morning he went to his new school. In the first class, Harry fell asleep right at his desk, but suddenly woke up and the classroom was empty. He went out into the hallway, the light was flickering, and suddenly he saw a doll sitting on the floor. Harry went closer. Suddenly the doll jumped up and shouted, "Wake up!" Harry really woke up. The new teacher was standing over him and yelling. After a hard day, the boy headed home on the bus. At home, Susie noticed her son's strange mood and asked what happened to him. But Harry remained silent and went up to his room. Susie didn't know what to do. She had never seen her son so upset. Donald was still at work and Susie couldn't talk to him. The head of the family found a job at a small company. His first workday was almost over, but suddenly the boss called him to his office. He looked very tired and then he spoke. "Donald, you were in my dream last night. You have to leave the city." Donald replied, "That cannot be. We just met today. Are you firing me?" The boss reluctantly replied, "I want to help you. Go back to your village or trouble awaits you." Donald was very angry, but he didn't respond. He just gathered his things and left the office. He was thinking about how disappointed Susie and Harry would be. Suddenly, he noticed an old man calling out to Donald. He approached, and the old man said, "Looks like you've had a rough day, my friend." Donald replied, "I just got fired, but I'll manage." The old man smiled and said, "I want to lift your spirits. I make dolls, and I'd like to give this beauty named Sally to you." Donald was very surprised and said, "Wow, I can't accept this gift. We don't even know each other. My name is John. Now take my gift or I'll be offended," said the old man. Donald took the doll named Sally from the old man and headed home. Susie was waiting for her husband and was surprised to see him come back not alone, but with a huge doll. Donald told his wife about the firing and the gift from the stranger. She was visibly upset, but told her husband that he would definitely find a new job. After that, Susie told him about their son's behavior. The father decided to calm his son and give him the doll. Harry saw his gift and burst into tears. He had recently seen this doll in his dream, and now it stands before him in real life. "Harry, what happened, dear? Why are you crying?" said Susie. "Sally, it's Sally," he whispered, his voice trembling. Donald frowned and came closer. "Son, do you know this doll? Where is it from?" Harry looked up at his father with tear-filled eyes. "I saw her in a dream. She came to me at night and called me to go with her. I got scared and woke up, and now she's here right in front of me." Susie looked anxiously at her husband. She was clearly worried. "Donald, maybe we should get rid of this doll. It seems to be frightening Harry." But Donald shook his head. "No, dear. This is a gift, and we should be grateful. Besides, it's just Harry's dream. Dolls can't hurt us." The next day, Donald left for a new job he had quickly found. Susie stayed home with Harry. The boy changed his attitude towards the new toy and did not leave Sally's side. Susie was cooking dinner when she suddenly heard an unfamiliar laugh from her son's room and quickly ran upstairs. But there was no one in the room. Susie called Donald and told him about her son's disappearance. Without thinking, Donald rushed out of the office and decided to run home through the forest, rather than wait for the bus. Several years passed. Harry, Donald, and the doll named Sally disappeared without a trace. Susie was terribly upset and couldn't believe what had happened. From then on, she was silent all the time. The only thing she said was, "Sally." After the disappearance of a man named Donald and a little boy named Harry, the people were convinced that the house was cursed and they demolished it. But this place still instilled fear in passers-by. But now it will not have any new owners and no one will disappear without a trace. Maybe.